parents said, "Therapy changed you," and they were right. I finally stopped begging for their version of love. Dad said it like an accusation, not a compliment. He leaned back in his chair, arms folded across his chest, the old dining room light throwing a yellow halo over his thinning hair. Mum stood by the doorway with her arms wrapped around herself, eyes shiny, playing the part of wounded bystander. My tea had gone cold in front of me. There was a ring on the table where I'd misjudged the mug earlier and splashed. I could feel my pulse in my neck and in my fingertips where I gripped the handle, nails digging into ceramic. The TV in the lounge was still on, some reality show murmuring to no one. It felt like the whole house was listening in, holding its breath to hear what I would do next. Apologize like usual or hold my ground. It was a Sunday afternoon in late August. The kind of dull, gray day where the sky looks like it's been rubbed out with an eraser and the air feels like lukewarm dishwater. I'd come over because Mum said we need to have a talk, which is never actually a conversation in this house. More like a performance, with them as the directors and me as the lighting tech, making sure they both feel properly seen. I almost canceled. I stared at her text for a full hour, reading it out loud to my therapist in my head. Am I obligated to go? In the end, I kept the visit short in my mind, 1 hour. I even set a quiet alarm on my phone in my pocket like a tiny private act of rebellion. When he said, "Therapy changed you," it was because I just told them I wouldn't be coming over 3 nights a week anymore to keep your mum company while he worked late. My exact sentence was, "I can't be your emotional support animal anymore." That landed about as well as you'd expect. Mum gasped. Dad's eyes narrowed. And the first thing he honed in on wasn't the years of unpaid emotional labor I was vaguely hinting at, but the word therapy. "I knew it," he snapped. "I knew that woman was putting ideas in your head." He always says "that woman" about my therapist, like she's an ex-girlfriend he's jealous of. I started therapy a 1.5 years ago after I had what my GP very cheerfully labeled an anxiety episode, and what I would more honestly call a full-body shutdown in the staff bathroom at work. 1 minute I was answering an email about rosters. The next minute my hands were shaking so hard I couldn't type and my heart was doing this weird rabbit-thumping thing in my chest. I locked myself in a cubicle and slid down the wall onto the little metal sanitary bin, sobbing so quietly my throat hurt, because even there I was afraid someone might hear and be uncomfortable. My boss found me half an hour later, eyes swollen, insisting I was just tired. She wasn't buying it. "Go see someone," she said, in that tone that made it sound like she was talking about an IT issue. "They have an employee assistance thing, don't they?" That's how I ended up in a small room with fake plants and a box of tissues, trying not to sound crazy as I explained that I was just stressed. Really, nothing serious, just permanently exhausted and unable to say no to anyone ever. In our second session, my therapist asked me to describe a typical week. I told her about work, my friends, my occasional attempts at the gym, and then, almost casually, about driving to my parents' place 3 nights a week because Mum gets lonely when Dad works late, and how on Saturdays I take Dad to Bunnings because he doesn't like going alone, and how Sunday dinners are non-negotiable because family is everything and Mum gets upset if anyone misses them. "So that's every day?" she said, pen hovering. "Well, yeah," I said. "They need me. It's just how it is." She tilted her head. "What happens if you say no?" I laughed, but it came out wrong. "We don't really say no in my family," I said. "We just reschedule until it suits them." There was a silence I didn't like. "What would happen if you did?" she repeated. "Mom would cry," I said automatically. "Dad would say I'm selfish, and then I'd feel guilty and end up going anyway." She wrote something down. "Sounds like you've been looking after their feelings for a long time," she said gently. "Who looks after yours?" I didn't have an answer, which I guess was kind of the point. Growing up, my role in the family was very clear. I was the good kid, the mediator, the little adult. My younger brother, Sam, was allowed to be an actual child, meltdowns, slam doors, failing math, the works. I, on the other hand, learned very early that the quickest way to make myself safe was to be useful. When Dad came home in a mood, clattering his keys down and exhaling that heavy sigh, I'd spring up and ask if he wanted a cup of tea before he even took his shoes off. When Mum was pacing the kitchen on the phone with her sister, muttering about bills or Nana or her job, I'd start emptying the dishwasher without being asked. When they fought, I'd hover in the hallway, listening for whether it was the kind of fight that would blow over or the kind that meant Mum would come to my room later, crying, and say things like, "You're the only one who understands me." The first time she said that, I was 11. I remember because I wrote it down in my diary like it was a badge of honor. Mum says I'm the only one who gets her. What I didn't write was how tired I felt afterwards. How I lay there in the dark, her words heavy on my chest, knowing that if I was the only one who got Mum, then I couldn't ever go too far away. Who else would hold all her worries? That's their version of love, by the way. Proximity, compliance, almost constant availability. "Isn't it nice we're so close?" Mum would say, after calling me at 7 a.m. to rant about Dad using the wrong washing powder, or after I'd driven across town at midnight because she felt weird and didn't want to be alone. Other girls don't talk to their mums like this. When I got my first serious boyfriend at 22 and started spending holidays with his family, my parents sulked for weeks. Mum sent me guilt-laced texts like, "If your grandparents could see this, and I never would have left my mother alone on Christmas Day." Dad made jokes about how my boyfriend must be really something special for me to abandon them. I ended up splitting every occasion in half. Lunch at theirs, dinner at his, or vice versa. 2 sets of traditions, 2 sets of expectations, and me in the middle trying to be everyone's everything. It was like that with jobs too. When I said I was applying for a position in another city, 2 hours drive away, Dad went quiet in that dangerous way he does. "So you're just leaving," he said. "After everything we've done for you." Mum cried. "I just don't understand why you don't want to be near us," she sniffed. "We're a close family. People would kill for what we have." I withdrew the application. The recruiter never returned my email. I stayed. That's what you do for love, right? You bend until you fit. Therapy was the first place someone suggested that maybe love shouldn't require that much contortion. We started small. My therapist asked me to try saying no to tiny things. Not to Sunday dinner or Mum's midnight venting sessions. That was apparently advanced boundary work. But to, say, picking up Dad's dry cleaning on my way home because you pass it anyway. So the next time he texted, "Pick up my shirts?" I typed, "Can't today, running late. You might need to grab them," and hit send before I could overthink it. The result? 3 missed calls, 1 angry voicemail, "You're making life difficult for no reason," and a follow-up text from Mum. "Your father is under a lot of pressure right now. Try to be supportive." I played the voicemail to my therapist on my next session, hands shaking slightly as Dad's voice filled her office. "What do you hear when you listen to that?" she asked. "That I'm selfish," I said. "That I should have just done it." She shook her head. "I hear a grown man having a tantrum because his adult daughter didn't run an errand for him," she said. "I hear someone very unused to you having boundaries. So yeah." Therapy changed me. Slowly at first, then in ways my parents could actually see. I stopped answering the phone after 10 p.m. I started saying, "I'm not available then," instead of rearranging my whole week to fit around their appointments. I told them I wouldn't be mediating arguments between them anymore. If Mum wanted to complain about Dad, she'd need to start talking to him or to her own friends instead of using me as a relationship counselor with no training and no pay. They did not like this version of me. "Ever since you started talking to that shrink, you've become so cold," Mum said one day, tears in her eyes because I'd said I couldn't come over that night. "You used to be so caring." "I still care," I said. "I just also care about myself now." She looked at me like I'd spoken another language. Which brings us back to Sunday afternoon, sitting at that ancient dining table while they told me therapy had changed me like it was a crime. "You don't even sound like yourself anymore," Dad said, leaning forward. "Listen to you. Emotional labor. Boundaries. Codependent." He mimicked the words with a sneer. "You've let some stranger convince you your whole childhood was abuse or something." "I never said that," I said. My voice was steady, which surprised me. Inside, my heart was sprinting. I said there were patterns that hurt me, that I'm trying to change how I relate to you so I don't burn out. You barely come around now, Mom said. And when you do, you're distant. It's like we're walking on eggshells. I almost laughed at that. The number of times I'd walked on metaphorical eggshells in this house could fill an entire henhouse. I'm not asking you to walk on eggshells, I said. I'm asking you not to treat me like a therapist/housekeeper/free childcare/emotional sponge. I'm your daughter, not your everything. Ungrateful, Dad muttered under his breath. And that's when it clicked properly for me. Not intellectually, my therapist had been pointing it out for months, but viscerally in my bones. Their version of love requires me to be grateful for being needed, not loved for who I am. Love, to them, is me showing up, me listening, me smoothing, me solving. It is not them being curious about my life unless it intersects with their needs. It is not them holding space for my feelings without competing. Mom cried when I told her I'd gotten a promotion at work last month. At first I thought they were happy tears. "This is amazing," she sobbed, hugging me. "I'm so proud of you." 10 minutes later she was in the toilet, door half closed, talking to her sister on the phone, whispering, "She's moving up and I'm still stuck in this job. I don't know why she gets everything I never did." When I came back from the kitchen, she wiped her eyes quickly. "Just allergies," she said. That's the kind of good I grew up with, compliments laced with resentment, pride tangled up with envy, hugs that felt like they might turn into claws if you moved wrong. So when my parents say therapy changed you, what they mean is, you stepped out of the role we had scripted for you. They're right. Therapy changed the way I respond when Mom texts, "Your father is impossible. I can't stand him, I might just pack my bags." Past me would have called immediately, spent an hour talking her down, then followed up with Dad to see his side, then lain awake worrying they'd divorce and it would be my fault because I wasn't here enough. Present me reads the text, feels the urge to fix Flickr up, and replies, "I'm sorry you're going through that. Have you told him how you feel? I can't talk about this tonight, but maybe you could call her friend's name. She doesn't like that." She sends me sad face emojis and, "Wow, okay then." Sometimes she doesn't reply at all, then calls 3 days later with, "I didn't want to bother you," in a tone that says I absolutely wanted you to feel guilty about it. Past me would have driven over with ice cream. Present me goes to bed, heart thudding, fingers itching to send a follow-up, "Are you okay?" and practices letting my parents sit in their own discomfort. It feels terrible and right at the same time. When my parents say therapy changed you, they also mean you stopped accepting our narrative. Narrative like, "We did our best, so you can't be hurt," or "We weren't as bad as our parents, so we must have been good," or "Family is everything, so if you step back, you're betraying us." In therapy, we've been gently dismantling those sentences and looking at what's actually underneath. "We did our best," my therapist says, can be true, and their best can still have injured you. Those two realities can exist together. Not as bad as their parents just means the bar is on the floor. Family is everything is a lovely sentiment until it's used as a rope to tie you to situations that are actually eroding you. So yeah, I don't beg for their love anymore in the same way. I don't call 5 times in a row if they hang up on me in a sulk. I don't send long, groveling texts apologizing for upsetting them when what I did was express a need. I don't show up to every minor holiday with a dish and a smile and a willingness to sit in the blast radius of their marriage for hours. Love, in my new understanding, isn't me proving over and over that I'm worth keeping around by shrinking my life to fit theirs. Love is reciprocal. Love is curious. Love is, "How are you?" Not just, "Can you come over?" "I think you liked it better when I was desperate," I said on Sunday before I could overthink it. The words surprised even me. Dad frowned. "Desperate for what?" "For your approval," I said. "For your attention. For any sign you were proud of me." Mom gasped. "We are proud of you," she said. "We tell everyone how well you're doing. I show your graduation photo to all my work friends." "That's not the same as telling me," I said. "Mostly what I hear is how much I disappoint you when I don't show up exactly how you want." They both launched into overlapping monologues. How hard they worked, how much they sacrificed, how kids these days are ungrateful. I let them. I watched their mouths move, and I saw two people who genuinely believe that their needs are more valid than anyone else's because they never had theirs met. Two people who never got therapy and instead made their eldest child into their emotional regulator. It doesn't make what they did okay. It also makes it obvious, in a way, why they hate that I'm changing. Because if therapy changed me, it also changed the story. It took me out of the role where my self-worth was tied to how well I managed their moods. It made me notice that when my dad says, "You know I love you," it usually follows a criticism like, "You've put on weight. You know I love you. I'm just saying." It made me question why my mom cries when I say I can't come over but barely blinks when I tell her I've been having panic attacks. Here's the messy, honest part. I still love them. I still catch myself wanting to call mom first when something big happens. I still want dad to say, "I'm proud of you," in a way that doesn't feel performative. I still sometimes, in my lowest moments, wonder if maybe they're right and I am selfish, dramatic, brainwashed. Therapy hasn't turned me into some boundary queen robot who never doubts herself. It's more like, it's given me a second voice in my head that gently says, "Hey, maybe you're not crazy." When the old voice starts tearing me apart. Leaving their house on Sunday, I felt wrung out. I sat in my car with my forehead against the steering wheel for a solid 5 minutes, breathing in that weird mix of milkshake from yesterday and pine from the air freshener I keep meaning to replace. My phone buzzed, my therapist, confirming our next appointment. I typed out a message before I could censor it. Parents told me therapy changed you, like it's the worst thing in the world. I think they're grieving the old version of me they could walk all over. I feel guilty and also weirdly relieved. She responded a minute later, "It has changed you. You're allowed to grow even if they don't. We can talk about the grief next session. Be gentle with yourself tonight." So here I am, being gentle with myself in the only way I know how right now. By writing this all out, letting strangers on the internet see the messiness of it. I don't have a bow-tied ending. I'm not going no contact in a blaze of righteous fury. I'm not forgiving and forgetting either. I'm somewhere in the murky middle, lower contact, firmer boundaries, lots of second-guessing, occasional crying in my car, and surprising moments of peace when I choose not to answer the phone and nothing immediately explodes. Parents said, "Therapy changed you," and they were right. It changed me from the kid who thought love was something you fought for, performed for, earned, into an adult who is slowly, haltingly, learning that love that requires you to disappear isn't really love. And for the first time in my life, I'm more interested in finding the kind that doesn't ask me to beg.